Hey everybody, welcome to Moment of Clarity. Starting a couple minutes early. Hope you're doing well out there. Hope you're hanging in. Hope you're persisting. Hope you're able to get through, able to make it through today. I've got incredible guests for you. I'm so excited. This is multiple days of great guests. Today is Suzie Dawson, the co-creator, along with some other awesome people, of the social media platform that people can't stop talking about, even though it's not even available yet. It's called Panquake. It's on the blockchain. It's not. It doesn't hold your data. They don't steal your data. It's uncensored. Anyway, a lot of great things about it. We'll get into all that, why it's so important, why it has to happen now, and why it's different than all the social media platforms that dominate our lives right now. But before I bring in Suzie Dawson, I like to bring you a story or two before I bring in the guest. And today I thought it'd be. Well, before I say that, please take a minute to share this. Let people know. Click subscribe if you aren't. Click the thumbs up. And yeah, let people know. The thumbs up thing actually turns out to be important because YouTube won't tell people about it unless they think people are liking it. So click the old thumbs up. I don't know if that stands for thumb up our asses, but that's kind of where we are. Humanity is as we watch it all collapse. But gonna turn off the phone. But I wanted to bring you a story before I bring in Suzie Dawson. And that story has to do with the fact that Ecuador has an election coming up, February 7th. Big election. Finally getting rid of Lenin Moreno, who was like a Trojan horse. He pretended to be the protege. He was the vice president, but he pretended to be the protege, the next Rafael Correa, a leftist leader who was going to continue to help the people of Ecuador, continue to stay outside of the U.S.'s, the U.S. empire's tentacle-like claws. Yes, they're both tentacles and claws. And continue to fight against the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, which had owned Ecuador for so long. And he acted like he was going to do all those things. Continue to help Julian Assange, who was, as you recall, seeking asylum inside the Ecuadorian embassy. And he did none of them. Lenin Moreno turned out to be a Trojan horse. He basically immediately cozied up to the United States. He gave Assange up to the British authorities. As you well know, Assange now in Belmarsh prison when he used to be in the Ecuadorian embassy. He also brought the IMF back into the country. And so now Lenin Moreno is seeing his last few days in office, and there is an election coming up. And in that election, in the polls, the next leftist, the next Rafael Correa protege, who has linked himself to Correa, actually wanted Correa to be his running mate, but the corrupt Ecuadorian oligarchy forbid it. Andres Arauz is, and I know I'm pronouncing it wrong because I can't pronounce anything in any languages other than the sad Americanized version. And you're just going to have to fucking deal with that, all right? God damn it. Actually, the original pronunciation is fucking deal with that. You're going to have to fucking deal with the fact that I can't pronounce anything correctly. Anyway, Andres Arauz is in the polls. He is dominating. He looks like he could get double the votes of the next closest candidate. Now, what does that mean? That means that the U.S. empire, along with the IMF, along with, I'm sure, the World Bank, although the IMF's more influential in this one, not a fan of this upcoming election because they know what's going to happen. They see the writing on the wall. They see that Lenin Moreno has been a disaster for the Ecuadorian people, and now they're turning against that. And so what are they doing? Well, Moreno, for some odd reason, is in Washington, D.C. right now. And I'll go to an article to so that you can, people always asking me which sources to go to for these things, who to read, who to look to, and one of them is this one, Mint Press. Everybody should check out Mint Press. And So this article is by Alan McLeod. He does great work with anti-IMF candidates surging in the poll. Ecuador's Moreno flies to D.C. amid talk of suspending election. So they're discussing suspending this election, stopping it from happening because the American empire and the IMF see the writing on the wall. And, obviously, we're all hoping this doesn't happen. We're hoping they go forward with the election. And this is another area where Biden is no different than Donald Trump. This is not to say Biden's identical as Donald Trump on everything. He seems to be doing something for immigrants, even if he's not doing everything he can do for immigrants. Today, that has been the big news. But they're not talking about this one. They're not talking about the fact that Moreno has flown to D.C. I mean, why would he even? It's the last few days of his presidency. Why would he even need to fucking fly to D.C.? Other than to upend this election, other than to try and make sure this doesn't happen, other than to create what they succeeded in creating for a year in Bolivia, which was a right-wing coup. And Moreno's looking for that because he does not want the Correa's the Correa faction, that side of the country, which is over 50%, to take hold again. And Correa, while he was in office, the leftist leader, succeeded in doing a lot of wonderful things for the Ecuadorian people. Succeeded in cutting extreme poverty by close to 50%, cutting regular poverty by like 30 or 40, I think more like 40%. Gave the country's resources more to the people that needed them. And so here we have Joe Biden's administration somehow working with Moreno and the OAS and the IMF to try and stop this election or rig it or cause some sort of problem in this election. So, for anybody out there who has contacts in Ecuador or might be in Ecuador, I hope you can stop that from happening. I hope you have a legit election coming up February 7th. Good luck fighting off the American empire. Andres Arauz has said clearly that he is, anti the American empire and that he is anti-IMF. He wants to get the IMF back out of the country because Lenin Moreno invited them back in, it's like inviting vampires into your house. They have to be invited in. And so, Moreno opened the door and was like, come on in, come have a nice dinner. What could go wrong? Huh? What could go wrong? Let's see. I was going to look up one more thing. If I can find it. Oh, so OAS stands for, someone asked, Organization of American States, and it has played a role. It played a role in the far-right military coup in Bolivia in 2019. They OAS put forward like a report or something saying that the election was faulty or fraudulent when they're fucking completely not true. And then later, even the New York Times, which, the New York Times, their job is to kind of foment these U.S.-backed coups. So they supported that. They supported the overthrow in Bolivia, basically. The headline in the New York Times the following day said, quote unquote, the end of tyranny, when a right-wing fascist coup took over Bolivia. And then later, months later, after it was way too late, the New York Times admitted that OAS had no proof that the election was fraudulent in Bolivia, even though the New York Times had helped put forward that garbage. So there's a little news for you that you're not getting from your mainstream media. But let's get to our guest who has done amazing work. She right now is working to create an alternate social media platform that we're going to talk a lot about. People are talking a lot about already. So let's, hold on. Let me stop that first. Please share this. Please let people know about it. And I forgot to mention all the Super Chat donations are going to Food Not Bombs. I had the creator of Food Not Bombs on yesterday. So this week is the Food Not Bombs week. All the Super Chat donations will go there. If you're on Facebook, please come over to youtube.com/Moment of Clarity. And subscribe there. Okay. Please welcome Suzie Dawson.
Hi, Lee. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Suzie. How you doing?
Good. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for being here. I know you're working your ass off right now.
I'm pulling some hours, but so are a lot of other people.
Very true. Very true. I have noticed, I know this is tough with something that takes a long time to build, that there's been endless talk on Twitter and other platforms about Panquake, your new invention, I guess we can call it, along with many others, I know. But so it is in the early stages, but it's just getting rolling. So it's not available yet, but let's get into what makes it different from the social media platforms that are currently dominating our lives and censoring our lives and telling us what we're allowed to talk about. And I'm glad I'm having this discussion with you this week, because it comes on the heel of further suppression and censorship. Graham Elwood, who is a supporter of Panquake, but is also the co-host of my podcast, Government Secrets, has just had his entire YouTube channel demonetized for, they claimed, for showing controversial content. Who knows if that's because we just did a JFK assassination episode. But yeah, his career is being, upended and threatened by what YouTube has decided to do for basically no reason other than speaking the truth, really.
Unfortunately, it doesn't surprise me at all. I think recently Jimmy Dore said on Tucker Carlson that Julian Assange and WikiLeaks were the beginning of this trend of censorship, and I would absolutely agree with that. Certainly, Julian Assange warned years in advance of Twitter's increasing trend of censorship, and also Facebook's. And it seems now that that was a really prescient warning, and that's playing out, particularly across independent media in the activism sphere. But I think ultimately this is heading towards a really dark and scary place where I think nobody will actually be allowed to dissent online in any form, or will have some kind of serious punishment for doing so. It's one thing to be silenced. It's one thing to lose your platform. It's another thing entirely to end up like in China, where you might not be able to catch a train or purchase groceries if your online conduct has not been good enough for the government. And I think that we're not that many steps away from heading there at this point.
Right. It's kind of similar to like your credit checks that they now do. It's basically, they started that years back, where if you weren't a good consumer, if you didn't have a credit card, if you weren't buying a lot of things, if you weren't amassing interest and paying it off, then it could make your life incredibly difficult. You couldn't like own a home, or you couldn't maybe get an apartment in certain places or things like that. So it kind of similarly, they're going to, I mean, they're already in a way, but it's going to get worse, amassing your online behavior, whether you've been a good little boy or girl. And if you haven't, then it can completely upend your life.
Absolutely. And that seems to be the direction that we're headed in. And, Julian Assange warned about what he called the Filterverse of one. And he said that all information that we will receive will be manipulated by the government or by corporations. All information that we put out into the world will be manipulated by corporations or governments. That's exactly what we're seeing happening with the shadow banning, with the arbitrary account suspensions, with the disappearing followers. Like now you can't even keep the followers that you earn by posting your content. Our relationships are being interfered with and materially damaged by the censorship that's being employed by these big tech platforms. And it's abundantly clear to me that if we don't want to end up in that dystopian future of social credit scores via social media activity, that we need to push back. We need to push back really hard, but we also need to have alternative systems in place, places that can become digital refuges for those of us who do value our voice and value free speech. And that's exactly what panquake.com is about, and why I've been working on this project for the last few months.
And I know you came up with the name Panquake from pan meaning global. I think this was before the pandemic began, but and quake meaning the effect you can have with social media. I think both those things are incredibly important. And so I know people have a lot of questions. Probably top of that list is how would it be set up on the blockchain so that people could, have their voice heard and not fear that one little member, one little person inside YouTube, for example, can decide, they don't like you and therefore your stuff gets censored.
So you're right, the Panquake is a short messaging service and it is on the blockchain. And what that means is an indelible record, an immutable record is created of every public content post that our users create and also the interactions that they have with each other. So if I write a quake and it goes to my timeline, it is also copied to the blockchain and can be accessed by anybody else who is on the network. And in accessing that record, you can, because it's cryptographically carved into the blockchain, you can tell that it hasn't been manipulated, that nobody's changed the content, that nobody has removed the interaction. So this gets rid of the problems of disappearing retweets or disappearing likes or disappearing followers, or all these types of problems that we're seeing happen across the big tech platforms at the moment. And so it just gives people peace of mind and assurance, and in a really provable way, that their content is being protected and preserved and not meddled with. The other thing that it does is it shows very clearly if any moderation has occurred, the specifics of that moderation. And again, any user on our network can access that record. So yes, we will be removing child pornography. Yes, we will be removing genuinely illegal content that is not okay to anybody in society, really. But when we do so, you will know what date, what time, what account, what message, why that message needed to be moderated, who it was moderated by, and then that just provides total transparency to the network. Whereas Twitter and Facebook in particular, but others as well, Google and even YouTube, they're modifying accounts and content by the hundreds of thousands or millions on a daily basis, and we have no accountability whatsoever as to who is being impacted or why these actions are being taken. There's also really no significant due process or recourse, whereas in our case, we are providing transparently to the entire user base exactly the reasoning behind any moderation action that is taken.
Right.
And we are never moderating for political reasons, ever.
Right. I think that's incredibly important. The idea that there's this permanent record of why it needed to be moderated and who did it and everything else. Because one of the biggest problems right now is that, for example, I've been some level of shadow banned on Facebook for the past 4 years. I was gaining 5,000 followers on Facebook a week before 2016. And now I've been basically stuck at 330,000 ever since. I never gain no matter what. And I know I have no idea why that happened or what happened or who decided it or what algorithm decided it or anything else. So at least, if that were to happen to me on Facebook, they should explain to me, the reasoning. But what happens so often is they just say, disruptive content or community guidelines, or it's just a vague nothingness as to why they are stopping people from being heard. And that wouldn't happen at Panquake. Another important difference is the data mining aspect, correct?
Absolutely. So we will not, in fact, I was going to say we will not sell your data, but it actually goes beyond that. We will not collect your data. We are not collecting email addresses. We're not collecting phone numbers. You can have an anonymous account by default on Panquake, and then you can choose, if you wish, to self-verify that account. So we don't get involved in the verification process. We put it in the hands of our users. So you, Lee Camp, when you set up your Panquake account, you can go to Twitter or Facebook or any other social media platform you use. You can make a post that says, on Panquake, I am at Lee Camp. And then you take the link to that post and you put it into your Panquake bio, and voila, you have just outed yourself to your audience and provably that you are in fact Lee Camp, without having to have any interaction with us, without us having to approve that. So it's a decision that you make yourself. You retain your autonomy and your right to choose about what information you divulge to your audience, and then you administrate that. So I think that's another huge difference. We're not creating this digital caste system which is what Julian Assange described it as, actually, where Twitter gets to decide who earns the verified tick or not, or ditto with Facebook,
Well,
YouTube, any of
as
the
an
others.
upper class member, I'm a fan of the Twitter oligarchy. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, we seem to be headed towards a future now where we know for a fact that the algorithms are favoring these so-called verified accounts. They're favored in the top tweet results, for example, and search results. And
Of course,
really,
and it just creates a Pavlovian response where people assume the blue check must be more legitimate than anybody else. So people just see the blue and they think, well, this must be a comment, that deserves my time. So it also, even if they weren't favoring it, we naturally favor it.
yeah, I think that's true. And also regular people feel belittled, they feel lesser than, and it's just it generates a lot of negative feelings, and a false sense of superiority for some establishment figures as well. So what Panquake.com is doing is creating a level playing field. We're saying all of our users are worth the same to us. We're not creating any corporate accounts or celebrity accounts. The platform itself is advertising free, completely free of advertising. There's no paid boosting of content either. I know multiple other platforms have gone down that route. We are not. You can't pay more money to get more seen on Panquake. You see only the content by those people who you choose to follow, and then you see it in a time linear order. So you're seeing it when it was posted. We're using no personalization algorithms. There's nothing manipulating what's on your timeline other than you selecting who you follow, and that's it.
The no advertising thing is incredibly important. However, I can't believe you would say that a pipe fitter in Cleveland deserves to be heard as much as Paris Hilton. Okay. One of those is clearly more important. And until you guys figure that out, it's going to be a real problem. But yeah, no, the advertising thing is so important because none of these organizations, none of these platforms, none of these outlets, none of these news shows, none of them want to admit that the fact that they have ads on there means that these corporations exert a massive influence on them. And it doesn't need to be people like CNN loves to say, Raytheon doesn't call us up and say, here's what you can cover. It's like, no, they don't need to. They know that you aren't going to do extensive, daily reporting on how much Raytheon, how much blood is on Raytheon's hands because you're getting paid to put up ads for Raytheon on an endless basis, and you don't want to threaten that money supply. It's just common sense that paid advertising eventually exerts its control.
Sure, and the influence that doesn't come from money, comes from infiltration of these companies by, as we know, executives from intelligence agencies who are moving over to work for those companies. So we know that there is a UK ex-MI5 PSYOPs officer in Twitter. They openly admit that. And they've openly admitted in their recent statements across the last 6 months that they are messing with core functionality, like the ability to retweet, like the analytics and statistics that they provide to users, against people or accounts who they consider to be problematic. And that type of manipulation just doesn't stand. We have human right to freedom of communication. We have a human right to freedom of expression. And that needs to be preserved, and we need to create systems that will defend those rights and freedom of speech. And that's exactly what Panquake.com is about, and why we are asking people to support it. Support us because we will support you.
So right now, talk about what phase you're in right now. I like I said, it's not available yet, but you guys are all working very hard. And yeah, what the next steps are, and when you see a full product coming on the line.
So we are really making sure that we don't fall into some of the pit stops that others, such as, I guess they should remain nameless, have. For example, we are really wanting to create a platform that truly is for everybody, that doesn't get pigeonholed as being left or right. So we have a beta release coming up in the next couple of months, which is going to invite 5,000 trusted users who we have established personal relationships with people who followed us for years or who we followed for years. You will definitely be one of them, Lee, who will be coming onto the platform first to test it, to make sure that everything is working as it should. And we are actually this is something I haven't talked about before, but it's true. We are handpicking 500 Republican-aligned Trump 2020 types. We're picking 500 Antifa BLM blue types, and we're picking 4,000 political independents or non-politically aligned types, and we're bringing them onto the platform first. And that is so that we can show very clearly that there is a home for everybody on this platform, regardless of what their beliefs are, that we are not going to discriminate against one wing or the other or anyone in between, and that everybody can coexist and have a home, that we don't have to polarize ourselves and then attack the other side and try and hound them out of existence, but that actually we are all naturally part of a society and can exist on a digital platform together. And then we are doing a advanced rich functionality second release, which will have a lot of the things like groups or advanced search functions available. And in that release, we're allowing our first 5,000 users to bring on 5 people who they trust and love and care about. And that will bring us an additional 25,000 users. And as they pull in from their peer groups, we are hoping that we can keep that nice, beautiful rainbow distribution from left to right of everybody. And that will allow us to, again, reinforce that this is a home for everyone. And from that point, we will release our 2.0, which is the full public release, when anybody will be welcome to sign up for a Panquake account.
I know that, it's the Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube, they're all about trying to maintain their monopolistic control of these spaces, and they can be pretty cutthroat to do that. I know that when we did I agreed to speak on your video release recently, and it was an excellent event with a lot of incredible people like Chris Hedges and Jimmy Dore and Graham Elwood and so many others. It ran into a lot of problems getting up on YouTube. I can't imagine that was just a coincidence. I know that Minds.com, another platform, you can't send a Facebook message to anyone with Minds.com in the message. And so I'm wondering, how much you feel that will be an issue going forward.
Well, I think they did us an absolutely tremendous favor. So that event was pretty hyped, actually, and there were thousands and thousands of people waiting to see that launch event online. Jimmy Dore was carrying the live stream to his channel, or attempting to. It was going out to 5 other channels, including Graham Elwood, including the Panquake channel, including my personal channel, and other platforms as well. All of those streams were completely throttled. The bits weren't dropping on our end. It was actually on the YouTube end that was happening. And so, yeah, it did appear to be some type of technical sabotage going on. But the response to that sabotage was, surprisingly to me, it was not criticism of us. It was our very switched on smart audience realizing what was happening and being absolutely infuriated at Google and YouTube for preventing us from delivering that content. And they responded in amazing ways and in force. So I went onto social media after that launch event failed to stream, expecting to be lambasted across the board. And instead, what I found was hundreds and thousands of supportive messages from users across the board saying, this is the proof that Panquake is legit. It's the real deal. It's the real thing. The powers that be hate it. They don't want us to know about it. Where can I donate? And we actually had thousands of dollars donated to our donation page before we even got our launch event video out, before people even knew what Panquake was. They were already donating and supporting us. And then even more amazingly, I noticed they'd taken our Panquake logo off our website and had started changing their profile pictures on social media to our logo and creating banners and putting banners on their social media profiles of Panquake and just relentlessly posting messages on the internet telling people to support this campaign. And we knew that we would need to raise about $50,000 just to pay the core business expenses, like we're registering the business in multiple jurisdictions to protect it from any lawfare by the US. We have a lot of costs associated around producing the actual front end, the UI of the application for the beta. So we knew we needed this $50,000, and we expected it might take us a couple of months to raise it. And incredibly, within the first 2 weeks, we raised $35,000 just by word of mouth alone. Like, we had no media coverage, no major events, nothing. We'd only had our little live stream that we put out and some tweets. And just off word of mouth, just of the thirst and the hunger that people have for a solution like this, just thousands of people knew about Panquake and were contributing to it. And it has been the most incredible thing to see unfold, because the support for us has been so grassroots. And I'm so happy about that, because I was on Twitter when it was just the grassroots, when there weren't celebrities, there weren't these big blue tick accounts, there weren't all the journalists and whoever else, the influencers. It was just real people. And I said to my team, actually, before we even did the launch event, I said to them, I don't care about the influencers. I want the grassroots, because where the grassroots go, inevitably the influencers will follow. Those people will end up having to come to our platform, because that's where the people are. That's where the audience is. And the people are significantly more important to me. And the people are who we have won the hearts of. And the people are who are going to push this over the line. And I'm just absolutely thrilled at the response. It's been just phenomenal and beyond our imagining.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how excited people are. Talk for a minute about Bill Binney joining on, and he's a legend. He's an NSA whistleblower, but talk about what he's specifically doing on the project, and also about his background.
Okay, so Bill Binney is the ex-technical director of the National Security Agency, who was really appalled by the direction that it was taking, particularly around 9/11, 2001, and the beginnings of widespread implementation of mass surveillance. So basically, he was seeing from the inside the construction of the types of systems that Edward Snowden, a decade later, would happen across. And Bill essentially resigned. I mean, I think technically he retired, but he essentially became a whistleblower. Not so much that he took documents and leaked them, but that he has verified a lot of information, such as actually the Snowden documents. He has done a lot of speaking around the revelations in those files. And he has been just an amazing and incredible and brave proponent for freedom of speech and privacy rights for the average citizen. He's a really beloved figure for that. He's an incredibly courageous man, and incredibly talented and genius level technologist. The best of the best he was for over 30 years at the NSA.
Okay, you're making me feel unaccomplished.
Look, we are all unaccomplished by comparison.
No, I know.
Believe me. But how the partnership with Bill came about was quite spectacular. I don't think I've told this story either. I think I've told it privately to Graham Elwood, but I don't think anyone else knows. I had a meeting with Bill because I wanted him to endorse Panquake. And so I took him through, because I knew he was a technologist, I took him through all our architectural documentation and all of our design documents, because I wanted to get his opinion on them. And then at the end of the meeting, he said, so what do you want from me, Suzie? And I said, I want you to join our advisory board, and once a month we'll have a meeting for an hour, and you can just give us any general advice, just make sure we're on track. And I'm thinking, like, please, 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 Bill. And he says, I don't just want to shop for an hour once a month. I want to build this. I want to be on your development team. And at that point, of course, I just about fell off my chair, because he's Bill Binney offering to help build our product. And lo and behold, there he is at the next meeting discussing multi-dimensional encryption and advanced networking technologies and how to deploy them at scale. And I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, we're the luckiest people on the planet. And of course, we have a fantastic development team. We've got people from Germany, from Australia, from the US, and from New Zealand, all working together to build this product. But they're now being led by Bill Binney, and that is something incredibly special. And we're just so lucky to have him be a part.
So, what am I missing? What have I not asked you about?
What have you not asked me about? What we need from people next, I think, is the big question. And that is that we need you to keep doing what you're doing, which is telling everybody about this product, because CNN's not going to tell them about it. That they're not going to tune into Fox News and hear about Panquake. The corporations are not going to support us. The corporations are going to suppress us. And the only thing that can smash through that is word of mouth, reaching out by all different means and methods to everybody and telling them finally a real social media platform is coming, a platform that will serve the users only, not corporations, not governments, and not security agencies. And we really have designed every single aspect of not just our product, but also our underlying business to make sure that the users are paramount to us and the users are served in all ways. So we have a constitutional commitment not to sell our business. We have designed our network in such a way that we actually can't sell the network.
Right.
We've got no centralized servers. We don't put ourselves in the middle. We're not a client server model. The network is the users in totality and exists only amongst the user devices.
Right. That's something I was really impressed with is, and correct me if I'm wrong, if the FBI, the CIA, whatever, were to come to you and say, oh yeah, everything you're doing is illegal, give us the keys to the empire, we're going to run it now, or someone were to just let's say the Koch brothers or the Mercers come and say, here's $20 million, we're going to take it from here, that's not even possible, right?
Exactly. We have no user list, no email addresses, no user information, no centralized server. We can't give them the backbone of the network because the network is essentially a mesh network. It's just all of the user devices connected together and then just publishing to the blockchain. Blockchain is publicly available information. So if Mr. FBI comes knocking on our door and asks for information, then we're just going to say, thanks for coming. If you sign up for a Panquake account, then you'll have a copy of the Panquake blockchain like every user, and thanks for stopping by. So that's what it comes down to.
Nice. In this last couple of minutes, are there any other features you want to tell them about?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone a step beyond just the standard features. So yes, you have a timeline. Yes, you can write short messages. Yes, you can stick pictures and videos and emojis and GIFs and whatever else you want to in there. Yes, you can follow people and be followed by people and reply to people and like stuff and share it on or off platform. But we actually developed a whole new suite of functionality, which is focused around enhancing amplification and social reach for all of our users. And it's all really cute, cool stuff. And it's all based around reducing the amount of clicks and page views that you get forced into by traditional social media channels. So when I was studying these applications that we use every day, and I was literally working out like how many clicks does it take to do this process, how many pages do you use to do that process, I discovered that like there's ridiculous amounts of clicks and page views that just don't seem to serve any purpose. And I was thinking, why would they do this? Like, why would they make you click 6 times when you can click 1 time and do something? And then I had to talk to Kim.com. And Kim.com, of course, is an internet mogul entrepreneur who's built amazing, massive products that have 300 million users, hundreds of millions of users. And he said that the reason that they do this, they inflate the amount of pages you have to look at and the number of clicks, is so that they can falsely inflate their rankings on the site ranking engines, so that they can attract corporate money and investors by claiming that people spend more time on their site or click more times or view more pages than they otherwise would. And so we have already committed, we're not going to go after venture capital. In fact, we're not even going to accept venture capital. We're not selling any equity in our company. We're completely crowdfunded. We're a user-supported network. So we discovered that we could eradicate almost all of those clicks and page views out of those workflows, and that you can actually do things on Panquake for a tiny fraction of the amount of time that it takes to do them on the big tech platforms, because we don't care what our page ranking is. We don't need to attract investors. So we came up with a whole new functionality set where in single clicks you can do incredible things that you can't actually do on the existing big tech platforms. For example, I won't go through them all because there's too many, but one in particular that I really like, is called a love quake. A love quake is for when you have an account that you really trust and you know 100% that you want to circulate all that content from. For you, it would probably be the Redacted Tonight account. For me, it would probably be WikiLeaks. For other people, it might be Edward Snowden or anybody else that they really care about, really trust the content of. Mm-hmm. One button, one click, one time, all of that account's content automatically posts to your timeline until you decide you want to turn it off with one click, one time. And just that simple function, just as one example, saves hours of manual retweeting time by comparison to what people have to do now if they want to heavily promote an account or a certain type of content. So we've really gone the extra mile to find simple, easy, cool functionality presented beautifully, that just makes these existing big tech companies obsolete. Their products really are just old news by comparison to Panquake.
Well, it certainly sounds exciting, which is why I've been talking about it. Unfortunately, you're not paying me millions of dollars.
We're paying you nothing.
I know.
But you love us because you know that we are going to serve you, and you know that you and everyone you know will benefit from panquake.com.
Exactly. I just think it's important. And I think the only way that, those of us speaking the truth, talking about the things that are not allowed in your corporate media are going to continue to get that message out is to create alternate platforms that compete with these ones that now dominate our lives. This one is definitely important, critical.
It's something special, and I really appreciate you endorsing it.
Yeah, no problem. So the website's panquake.com, and I'm sure I'll have you on in the future at the next stages. And it's great talking to you, Suzie.
Thank you. Get on there and donate, guys. Get us over the line. We've only got 30% to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suzie. Well, that is Suzie Dawson. Hope you enjoyed it. Some of you were asking questions that had already been answered. I saw Nays Garden had asked about controlling violent content and then seemed unhappy that we were not answering how to control violent comment. She'd already answered that earlier. She said that content that we all are, obviously you have to decide this line, and I think that will be decided going forward. But anything that is violence, that is, as she said, things like kiddie porn would be banned or censored, but there would be a very clear record of when something was taken down and why. So you would be able to look at the blockchain and say, oh, this was taken down at this time by this person because it was fucking a monkey having sex with a dude. And that's why. And that's why it was taken down. Because, yes, and it sucks to have to draw that line. Where do you decide to draw that line? But that's reality. That's the reality of our world. You do need to decide when to draw that line, because I haven't met anyone who believes child pornography should just be flying around on a site because there's no censorship. I'm sure those people exist out there. I think they're fucking lunatics. So, yeah. Unfortunately, you do have to find that line, but I think that she said nothing would be taken down because of its political content, or because it's not true, for example. Yes, Nays is saying he has no lines. So if you want kiddie porn, head on over to Nays Garden, because he's telling you he's got some. Just messing with you. But thank you guys so much for joining. If you missed the beginning of this, I talked about the upcoming election in Ecuador, and I think you guys should start the video over and get that part too. But thank you, Taylor Hudak, for attending as well. Taylor hosted the recent video event we did for Panquake. You can still find that on Vimeo as well. I think YouTube tried to stop it. But panquake.com is the website. Thanks to all who donated. All of the donations are going to Food Not Bombs this week. Great organization that gives people food. What an outlandish idea, giving people food. Let's see. I do these almost every single weekday, except sometimes. And I also, as I've mentioned, Graham Elwood, you should support him as well. Recently, YouTube has said his channel's been demonetized, which is really hurtful to his career, hurtful to his life's work. But I do a podcast with him called Government Secrets. We also live stream it every Friday. And we've just done 2 segments out of a 3-part series on the truth about the JFK assassination. And I don't know if that's what got him banned. He's not banned. He's demonetized. It very well could be. YouTube is very upset that we are doing these series on the truth about the JFK assassination. But I think it's, giving a perfect example of the type of truth, absolute truth, like absolute reality that they do not want to acknowledge. And they just want you to buy into CIA talking points. Holy shit. Nays just donated $104, $420. Nice. To Food Not Bombs. Very cool. And Dustin also, thank you for the donation. All the proceeds going to Food Not Bombs this week. But yeah, this JFK series that is getting censored by YouTube is, I think it's incredibly important, and it goes to show how terrible the censorship has gotten on our platforms and why we need to build up alternatives like Panquake. But if you want that series, look up Government Secrets. It's on any podcast platform you can find, and it's also on YouTube for now, at youtube.com/moment of clarity. It's on Graham's channel, and we're both on Rockfin. Speaking of alternatives, one alternative, which does not have necessarily all the cool stuff that Suzie's talking about, but it does treat content creators better. Rockfin.com, ROKFIN.com. I'm at rockfin.com/Lee Camp. Graham Elwood's on there as well, and you should support him because he's just been demonetized. And so head on over to rockfin.com/Lee Camp and Graham Elwood and grab some of our stuff over there. All right. I will talk to you hopefully tomorrow. Keep fighting. And there's new Redacted Night coming this week too.